Doing great. Voting day here.
Yeah,
So got out and
Super
voted.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
awesome.
Thanks for asking. How about you?
Doing well. Doing well. I was a little worried this morning because Facebook was down and I
Day
messaged
here.
you on Facebook most of the time. I was like, uh-oh.
Uh, I was ready. I was going to be here no matter what. And I was looking
Yeah, right.
forward to ignoring everybody but you today with Facebook down. And then unfortunately it came back to life in 1 hour. And I was like, oh man, back to the races.
Yep, it wasn't quiet for long, was it?
Ready. I was Yeah. going to be.
Okay, here we go. Um, Nicole, how you doing? Good to see you.
Hello, I'm good.
Casey in the building. Clarissa, good to see you too as well. Okay, we are
Eddie,
live, guys. We are live. Eddie in the building. Eddie, good to see you. Okay. Um,
I'll go ahead and get my
yeah, if you want to go ahead and get
share
started.
screen. I don't have to start, but just get my screen set up.
Cool. Okay. I see Nancy walking in. Leslie's back in. And
One like
okay. Can
okay,
you guys hear me okay? Am I coming through okay?
Yep, we can hear you good.
Awesome. Okay.
I
So,
lost everybody for a minute. I'm sorry.
no worries. All right, let me participants more. Okay. Nancy, good to see you back in. Um, so without further ado, guys, let's get started. The main
Absolutely.
tape, the main table talk today, entrepreneur roundtable. We're going to be talking about breaking the ice, mastering the art of cold calling. Now for the people who don't cold call or don't want to cold call, don't want to wholesale, this is still like some high level and this is high value conversation. As we went through the slides, Steph and I went through them today. I was like, man, there's a lot of points on here that I didn't even think about. So I want you guys to think about it not just as cold calling, but more on what value can I add to my real estate, repertoire.
Absolutely. It also goes into for those that are just buying deals and you're sourcing your deals through wholesalers and stuff like that, kind of gives you a sneak peek into some of what are their higher level of wholesalers, what they're doing in their business and what goes into it as well. So it's a good knowledge to have, even if you're not actually going to be the one doing the cold call.
Awesome.
We can go ahead and get started. Ray will let a couple folks in as they pop in. But for anybody who's new, I think there's a couple in here. My name's Seth, and I'm a real estate investor based out of Morgantown, West Virginia. I've been investing for a couple of years now, since 2019. Um, I do a lot of everything: buy and hold, fix and flip, wholesale, the whole nine yards. And started putting this group together with the Mountaineer RIA group that I hold here locally, and met Ray, and we decided to put this group together, and just here to add value to you guys.
Awesome. I'm Ray Glimp, guys. You always see me. I'm the freedom guy. 100 doors, over 10 million in real estate deals done. Um, Featured on Yahoo, Google, 40 under 40, NAACP award winner. The biggest thing I do is I give back, though. That's my biggest commitment is helping those in the community around me, helping you guys. You guys are part of my community, whether you're part of the mentorship or not. Tuesday's our day of giving back, high level, high education. We're here to help you guys today. So I appreciate everybody joining on.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, if you can, because we've got people from all over and stuff like that. If you want to drop Instagram handles, Facebook, where you're calling in from and stuff like that as well in the chat. This is all about networking and growing our network. So make connections in the group that way. We've got people from both sides of the country and everywhere in between.
Yeah.
Ray, you want to take the disclaimer today?
Yeah, I got you. So the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any organization. The content provided is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as professional, legal, medical, or financial advice. Listeners are encouraged to conduct their own research and consult with appropriate professionals before making any decisions based on information provided in this podcast or show or Zoom. Any reliance you place on such information is strictly at your own risk. This is just to protect our behinds for this free education. So I got to make sure I share that with y'all. All right.
Absolutely.
With no further ado, let's get down to business.
We are absolutely happy to share that with anybody that would like it. We got some breaking news that came out over the week.
So I want you guys to know things are changing rather quickly in the real estate world. Okay. As we shift from week to week, and this came out Thursday. All right. So I want you guys to know the biggest thing is mortgage rates went to 8% so quick. People were unsure of like what they should be buying. I want you guys to know in commercial real estate, prime right now is 8.5. And so that means if I go get commercial debt, I'm looking at a 9.5 rate, right? I'm paying 9.5 and up. That's preferred. Like I'm going to talk to the bank tomorrow. I might get 0.75, but I'm paying top dollar interest right now. And as I teach my students, that doesn't matter as long as it what? As long as it cash flows right now. That's all we care about right now. We want to make sure that it cash flows from the beginning. Interest does not matter as long as the cash flows from the beginning. Another thing that you'll hear a ton about, okay, is you're going to hear more about Wall Street taking some of your home, right? So a lot of this is going to be fear mongering. Wall Street and Wall Street money has been in the game for so long, right? And then you'll hear a lot of like government institutions saying, okay, Wall Street's buying everything. They're really not. And they're going to say Wall Street is the reason why our house prices are going up. That's really not true either. One of the top 3 reasons, I think we talked about this. I don't know if we talked about it yet, but one of the top reasons that you see higher rents is going to be those costs. So taxes, insurance. These are companies that are making record profits, by the way. Insurance companies, highest taxes. Those are the things that affect and driving rental rate. It's not really Wall Street. So I want to make sure we keep that clear too. But Wall Street does have their hand in it. They're offering a loan program, or it's even like a grant where they'll give you money for your equity in your house pretty much and in your appreciation. So they'll give you 50,000, 60,000 and tap into your appreciation for future. So what does that mean? Wall Street believes that we're going to see some high appreciation. Prices are going to continue to rise. We've been saying this for years. This is coming directly from Seth. I think we pulled this from MSNBC earlier.
Yes.
So this is coming directly. These are things we've been preaching for 6 months, a year. Prices are going to rise. Wall Street is doubling down on us. So if you can buy now, again, buy now. I would say I'm buying now.
It's funny too, because when, throughout the whole COVID situation, when rates were really low and in the 3s and things like that, everything was great. And everybody's like, man, this is a bubble. It's going to pop. Like, you can't stay at this. I remember some, going to some meetups and meeting with some high level people in the economy and stuff like that, talking about how this is just not going to, wait till interest rates go up. As soon as interest rates go up, it's going to be a crash. It's going to make 2008 look very easy. And it didn't happen. Right. And 2008 was completely different. The last time that you really saw a drop in the real estate market, it had to do with the lending practices. And throughout this whole cycle, it has been a lot more stringent. You didn't just need a pulse to get a mortgage, right? And that's why these defaults aren't because people have more than a pulse, right? They're more qualified people that are taking out these loans at these higher prices. So a lot of people are still making their mortgages, and that's honestly why the rates haven't crashed and why they probably won't.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. All right, our favorite subject. I think this is my favorite subject. This is what we get to hear from you guys, okay? We want to talk about the small wins, little wins that you may have had, big wins that you may have had this week. I want to hear from you guys. It could be work related. It could be about the gym. I just want to hear about what you guys have accomplished. If we can keep it somewhat short, because we do have a presentation today, so we can limit them to like a minute. But I do want to hear from you guys. Anybody want to go? Just unmute yourself if you want to go.
I was able to use a piece of equipment that I bought for my company for the first time today.
Congratulations. I hope you build whoever for that.
Right?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was me, guys. I think she had to use it on.
Probably was.
Yeah. Anybody else small wins?
I got a small win. My tenant finally gets out tomorrow. The eviction day is tomorrow, finally.
Congratulations.
I'm looking forward, man. I'm looking forward to it. So
Good. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share with you guys my small win but big win. So I have a tenant that I had to evict. We just got the tenant served today. And the court date's March 11th. Served them today. I got emergency call that there is water overflowing through the whole building. The tenant left the water on. They lived on the top floor, left the water on, flowed through the whole building. We got a huge insurance claim. Now, to my students who know, I always tell you, make sure that your tenants have active insurance and make sure they have enough insurance. Guess what? These people have renter's insurance. Their renter's insurance is going to cover it. My renter's insurance probably won't even kick in on it. So very important. It's not really a win. I just dealt with this, Seth, maybe 30 minutes ago, right before we got on this call. That's how committed I am to you guys too. I put that on hold to make sure I'm here.
Yeah, I joined in early today, and Ray hopped on. He still had his kid in his hand. He said, "I got a crisis going on." I said, "Man, go take care of what you got to take care of."
Yeah.
And Ryan said he received his first tenant application for his vacant unit today too. So good job,
congrats, Ryan.
I'll repeat my small win for the week. I mean, like Ray, you know me and you've been going back and forth and like discussing everything I've been through, but I've actually gained funding for a few properties to start, my business and what I've been, wanting to get off the ground and everything for the past few months and everything. So all of that's going to close the end of this week and everything, and I'm proud of that and everything. So, like, that's a big accomplishment for me.
Congratulations. Awesome. I know how long you've been working on this too, man. So I'm proud of you, man. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Anyone else?
Anybody else?
Awesome. Going once, going twice.
Right.
Great. All right, let's move to the next slide.
Let's move on. I'll go ahead and introduce the lovely lady in red, Miss Jennifer Stewart. I met Jennifer, was it maybe a little bit over probably 2.5 years ago now. At a conference, my business partner flagged her down in the parking lot. I'm very grateful that he did that. I've done a lot of business with her over the last couple of years and learned a lot personally. But my business has absolutely grown from the stuff that she does. She is an animal when it comes to what she does. So I'll let you kind of go on with that and share your introduction, because I know that you're able to do that. And I'm going to turn off my share so that you can share your screen as well.
Well, guys, thank you so much for having me here today. I love hearing about all of your wins. I think that's awesome. Sounds like you're all building your wealth one property at a time. And like Seth said, we started doing business together, and I know thousands of people in the industry at this point, and he's easily one of the top 10 people that I respect and enjoy working with. And in part because what we do, not a lot of people do. Not a lot of people do acquisitions. And Seth and we specialize in acquisitions. And so anytime I meet a fellow acquisition specialist, it's a really special thing for me. So what I'll do is I've made a quick, actionable presentation. It's not too long because I want to make sure that you guys have enough takeaways to get started, but not so many that we're just sitting here doing book learning forever. And then if you have any questions or objection busters, we can go over that. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to try to anyways.
You should be able to. And guys, if you have questions, if you could leave it in the chat, and Jen, if they have something, I can just keep and I can just represent the class, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Okay, so cold calling is different in 2024 than it was 4 years ago. Fewer people pick up the phone, and so you have to kind of be ready that you're going to get fewer leads per 8-hour shift of the cold calling from your cold calling and appointment setter. And so that has changed. However, speaking with people who you've already spoken with is going to be better than just say like a cold text lead. They've already gotten a feel for your company, and so I still believe in cold calling. I still do it and still get a lot of deals from it. All right, trying to go next here. So this is my family and myself. This is my 2 sons, my husband, and my background is I have over 20,000 hours personally on the phone with sellers. So I can literally do this in my sleep. I love doing it. I love talking to sellers. I love figuring out if they're motivated or not. I have duplicated myself to the tune of 180 virtual assistants that I have in my agency. I train them personally. They have to come to me with at least 3 years experience, and then I train them with what I have personally learned. I also own a data and skip tracing company, and then I'm a DSCR lender and EXP agent, and people ask me to come speak all around the country. So I really love what I do, and I'm excited to be here and see if I can be helpful for you guys. All right. So I'm not an IT person, and I'm going out of town for 6 weeks. So bear with my my slide logistics, and hopefully you can just focus on the content. So the power of communication, right? No matter your lead source, right? It doesn't matter if it's PPC, TV, radio, side of a bus, whatever it is. At some point, you need to talk to a seller, right? Even if you're just talking to the wholesaler, you need to talk to somebody who's going to sell you their house. You need to know how to talk to the realtors, right? But right now we're talking about speaking directly to the sellers. So at some point, you're going to have to talk to sellers, I would imagine, unless you're buying from a realtor or wholesalers exclusively. So first things first, you need to buy a dialer, right? Batch, Call Tools, Mojo, Ready Mode. The second thing you're going to want to do is purchase a list of data and skip tracing, right, with all the pre-qualifying variables. And here's just a quick list of a lot of the different variables that you can choose from. And you guys are welcome to screenshot any of this, share it, take it down. I'm happy to share my PowerPoint with you after this is over. None of this is proprietary, and you're welcome to keep and save any of it that you think will help you in your business. So here's the script. Right? So this is important. How do we get people on the phone, and how do we get them to stay on the phone with us? So I'm going to pretend that Seth is the seller. I'm going to go, hello.
Hello?
Yeah. Hey, not sure if you can help me. Is this Seth?
Sure is.
Yeah. Hi, Seth. Hey, I saw that you were looking at Zillow at some point in the last year, and I just wanted to see if you were still thinking of selling your home or if you're already under contract.
Yeah, sure.
So 99% of homeowners have looked at Zillow in the last year.
Yeah.
So they think we're calling based on that data when really it's just generalized data. So they're going to quote a Zillow price at some point in negotiations anyways, and your estimate's going to be your biggest deal killer. So let's just get that out of the way right up front, right? And so then what do we say from there? And then I say, great. So this is option number 1. No, we're not under contract. Great. So you've been thinking of selling for a while, or kind of just since you started looking at Zillow? So the reason I ask that question is because if they've been thinking of selling for a while, it's likely more closable. If they just started thinking of selling, it's either a retail deal or it's not a deal at all. So what we're looking for here is that they've wanted to sell for a while, and hopefully for a specific reason. So here's option number 2. Well, we weren't looking at Zillow. Where did you get your information? That's like 1% of people, right? And say, I see, oh my gosh, I must have some incorrect information. I thought you might be interested in a fair offer on your property, and then just go completely silent. And option number 1 is, well, what's your offer? And option number 2 is, no, we're actually not. You're harassing me right now. And I say, completely understand that. I'm so sorry that I bothered you. It's a complete mistake, 100% on me. Do you by chance have any other properties where you might want to consider a cash offer? 50% of my acquisitions have come from asking that question right there.
Stop.
50%. So always make sure you ask the question, do you by chance have any other properties where you might want to consider an offer. You can say cash offer, fair market offer, whatever your exit strategy is, whatever fits there. But always, always, always ask the seller if they have any other properties that they might want to sell. So, and here's how I build rapport, no matter what their answer is, it kind of comes to this. We want to establish that we are on their side of the negotiating table. We do not want to ask what we think are clever questions like, if you had $20,000, what would you do to your property? Or what do you think needs to be done to your property? They know it's going to be used against them, guys. Even the least intelligent seller is more intelligent than that. So I need to establish that I'm on their side of the negotiating table. And I say, so just to make sure we can put as much money as possible in your pocket, right? Notice that's the first thing I start with. And then I go through this list quickly just to jog their memory. Have you done anything to say the roof, furnace, AC, windows, sewer line, kitchens, bathrooms, landscaping, foundation, anything that we can give you credit for in an offer, just to make sure we could put as much money as possible in your pocket? And then go completely silent. So I have a degree in psychology and I graduated in the top 5% of my class, right? It's not a bragging point, it's just a nerd point. And what we learned is that we build rapport with people by just listening. How many people were you just doing your job and you didn't say anything about yourself, you just listened to them, and they're convinced that they love you, maybe even in love with you, just because you showed them attention and listened. So that's all we're doing here. We, of course, want to gather information as to whether or not it's a closable deal and if we can add value in terms of it being an off-market property. But also, more importantly than that, even, we're building rapport to make sure that they know, like, and trust us. You don't have to do anything but ask one right question and then shut the heck up. That's it. That's going to be 90% of your closability ability right there. And then people always want to know KPIs. So for every 8 hours of calling, you should be getting about 3 leads. Now, I know that sucks compared to 5 years ago, where 8 hours of calling, you get 5 contacts, 10 to 5 contacts per hour, get 1 lead per hour. Now it's like every 10 contacts is a lead, and you get about 30 contacts per 8-hour shift versus 80. So that has changed. But still, if you know how to talk to sellers, engage whether or not they're motivated, that's still good no matter what your lead source is. So it's typically about 3 leads to 1 appointment, 5 appointments to 1 deal with, okay, the caveat of 90 days of follow-up. No one's going to talk and say, oh yeah, I need to sell yesterday for half of my equity. That just doesn't happen, right? So we have to be able to have that follow-up schedule and that follow-up cadence. And then 2/3 of your deals should dispo, even in this market of soft investor demand that I've experienced on the wholesaling side. And that's not true in every market. Like one of my clients is in the Pennsylvania market. He's still getting 26 offers above asking. In Texas, we're not in that space. So it does depend on your market, but another way to dispo right now is to put the properties on the MLS. So one of my clients jokingly said, yeah, we just get a MAID and a Glade plugin, we put it on the MLS and we don't deal with dispo anymore, right? So hopefully you're doing a good job dispoing your deals. All right, and then again, I said I was going to keep this short and actionable because I never know how much is going on whenever I join someone else's group. So I like to be respectful to the back and forth every group has, and then we can always expound and have questions. But here's kind of the final tip and takeaway. Here's what I say to always get the sellers back on track and see where do they want us to go. So let's say we're like the taxi driver. We need to know where they want to go. So how do we know where they want to go when they probably don't even know where they want to go? So here's what I ask. If a genie were to come to you and ask, how soon are you closing and how much is in your pocket based on the current market, right? Because we don't want to say lotto time, $3 billion, right? Based on the current market. How much is in your pocket and how soon are you closing? And then, right, and this is how you set an appointment. You say, great, so when would a great time for Seth to give you a call and get you an offer on your property to see if we can do that for you? So whether you're doing it yourself, you're setting an appointment for yourself later so you can do the research you need to make a very serious offer, or if your staff is setting an appointment for you, if you just remember that phrase, and I'll say it again. So if a genie were to come to you and ask, hey, how soon are you closing and how much is in your pocket based on the current market, right? So then we know exactly where they want to go and how we can take them there, whether it's creative, sub 2, cash, novation, put it on the market, whatever it is. We need to know where do they want to go? How much money do they want in their pocket? And how soon do they want to sell? And then we kind of have a roadmap from there. And right, so we need to rehearse consistently, right? Strengthen your familiarity, pacing, tone, emphasis, all this matters. That's why I like to do this out loud whenever I'm doing my training. Aim for seamless professional delivery if you can, but then put in some uhs, because AI is not putting in uhs, which, by the way, AI is illegal right now for initial outbound. Now, once they opt in, you can do AI all you want. But just to make sure you don't sound like AI, you will want to put some strategic uhs in there, like I did in that intro. Sound like a person. Tell stories. AI doesn't have personal stories. AI can't tell you about giving birth. AI can't tell you about getting divorced. AI can't tell you about their tire breaking down on the side of the road or their car breaking down with a flat tire. Tell stories that make you look personable, that are short, maybe 2 to 3 sentences long. Don't ramble on about yourself. They don't care. You'll lose their respect. But you do want to humanize yourself, right? And then enlist colleagues, right? So do group cold calling if this is a skill you want to learn. Have Seth listen to you. Have Ray listen to you if you're one of his coaching students. Have other people listen to you, and you will hear. That's how I got better. Was I had a lot of bosses. Whenever I was just a humble cold caller making $15 an hour, my bosses would say, "Jennifer, you said this, this, and this, and it was a terrible call." I can't tell you how many. So if I have 20,000 hours of talking to sellers, guys, I have to have thousands and thousands and thousands of calls. My first 3,000 calls probably were not so great or effective. That's a lot of calls. So don't expect to be great right out of the gate unless you just have an amazing talent. I probably have average talent, but obviously above average experience. So just be patient with yourself, right? Give yourself the grace and space to be awkward, and you will get better, especially if you have colleagues giving you feedback. So again, I wanted to make sure that we had time to open up questions. If you guys had other things you need to discuss in your meeting here, we can do some role play. You can give me your toughest calls, the toughest calls you've had, whatever it is you want to do, ask away. And then here's my contact information. I really, like Ray says, I love to give back. We're about to hit the road for a month because of the freedom that this industry has given us. My kids homeschool. My husband, I retired him after he, worked and paid all the bills while I went to college and built up my business. So, we're out of the matrix now. I'm really proud of that. And so we want to give back too, because we live very freely, and we don't think that people should be stuck in poverty or in jobs they don't love. And we're providing something that's very necessary, and that's housing. So ping me, guys. Send me an email. I put in the wrong, it's reidatasource.net. There's an E at the end there. I apologize for that, guys. And then if you scan the QR code, you will see my agency. If you ever want to see all of our ratings and see the hundreds of clients that we've had that are happy. I'm not pitching, but sometimes it's just good to know who you're talking to and what kind of background they have. And you can see that there with all of the positive ratings that we have that are 5 stars that cannot be bought or altered on Upwork. That's where I hold my agency. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you want to go back to the slide and go over it again, I'm happy. Or if you feel like, let's cover some other topics in terms of talking to sellers, whether it's we're closing over the phone or doing lead management, which is a different skill set, I'm happy to discuss that as well.
Yeah, Jen, I want to key in because we have, listeners of all different varieties, people who have no interest in cold calling, wholesaling, to people who are just starting out, to people who are all in on like, hey, I just want to wholesale, I just want to cold call, I want to get started. So I want to ask a couple questions. Some of my students might have high value from these too. So what is the easiest way for someone to get in contact with like a company like yours that maybe, wholesaling or dispo? What would be the easiest way for us to get a deal? Because I know some of the students here, they're not looking to do that. They're just looking to get that deal and go about it. So what would be the easiest way?
There are a lot of companies that do cold calling, and there are a lot of companies now that are offering AI cold calling. But like I said, it's illegal. I mean, I'm all about replacing myself with AI because let's be honest, it is some hard drudgery work. And I don't think that people should have to sit on a dialer all day making cold calls if AI does it better. But right now, it's illegal. So while that initial phone call and outreach is illegal, the best way to find and qualify good cold callers is usually going to be in your RIAs, someone that you can recommend, someone that's been able to show results, proof of concept. And that's one reason I have that barcode, so that you can see that we do have hundreds of clients that are 5-star rated and 4 and 5 stars. And it's hard, you know, whenever you're first starting out, the last thing you can do is risk your capital. You can't, I mean, $1,500 may be everything. It may be everything that you've been able to save at your job. And so one thing we do is we really respect people's capital, knowing that that capital is hard won, whether it's their, you know, 500th deal or they haven't even done their first deal yet. So you want someone who respects your capital and has proven records, whether it's with me or anyone else. You know, talk to people who have had success with them, that have done deals. Don't take anyone's word for anything. There's a lot of shysters, hustlers. You know, everyone knows that real estate investing is an industry where people make a lot of money. And so you will get a lot of predators. And so you need to talk to people who have done deals with them. And so that's why Seth, what he said was so nice. In terms of, you know, we did do some marketing for him, and whenever he was in Virginia. And so I really appreciate his vote of confidence. It means a lot.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I've done both.
Go ahead.
On that point, right? I've done both, where I've been the one doing the cold calling, and I had a spreadsheet that I kept track of it, right? I was using True People Search and all these free sources, and using garbage data, and it took me 15 dials to have the phone actually ring.
Gosh.
Right? I've hired virtual assistants and managed those virtual assistants myself, and made those virtual assistants, and listened to those virtual assistants calls, and I was basically doing the work myself, just not, you know, not actually the one making the calls. And then I've worked with folks like Jennifer as well, and text campaigns and call campaigns, and it comes down to the who not how that you hear a lot in real estate, right? And it can be very taxing. It's an amazing, I think it's probably the best lead generation cost wise out there. It just takes determination and effort, right? But it's so much better if you leave it to the professionals to do it too.
Yeah.
Especially now that text is so heavily regulated by 10DLC. It's hard to do 10,000 texts a day like we were a year, 2
Right.
years ago, 3 years ago. But cold calling doesn't get throttled and punished like texting does. And that sucks for me because, you know, I was making a good living on doing text for others. So we really had to pivot everyone back over to cold calling, which is fewer leads, but they're leads that are further down the decision-making timeline, and you've qualified them better. So that does help.
Yeah. And for the guys listening, the people listening that are newer, newbies, never heard of cold callers or never deal with any wholesalers, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but this could be a process that you could utilize to help you find deals before they, you know, either on market or a wholesaler gets them or anything of that nature. Using a service like Jennifer's could help you get that next deal first.
The biggest benefit, in my opinion, and Jennifer, you can chime in, but the biggest benefit to cold calling is that if you're buying from a wholesaler, if you're buying from the MLS, or if you're buying from a referral, you have competition. If you're buying at an auction, you have competition. I would say that at least 80%, if not higher, of the deals that I negotiate with sellers, I am the only person they're talking to, because I'm the one that called, right? My company is the one that called. Like, sometimes we're the reason why they want to sell, is because we connected with them.
That's right. Especially if you ask the question, because sometimes they get called by a lot of people, especially back whenever cold calling was more popular in 2018. They'd say, "You're the third GD caller I've had this week." But guess what? I was usually the only caller who asked the question, "Do you by chance have any other properties where you might want to consider a cash offer?" And that's why I would do 50% of my deals off of that question alone. And now that all of your fly-by-night mom and pop folks who felt like they were going to come into the industry and make easy money, they're all gone. So there are fewer people calling now. So I don't get that response like I did 5 years ago. The interest rates, to Ray's point today, has made it so only professionals are left in the game, which means fewer people are calling. And so we're getting more traction in those individual calls and less complaints.
And for the students, I guess this may be a good tactic for you guys as well, if you're looking to find that seller finance deal.
Yeah.
Right. And utilizing, because I know, like, for example, I know Eddie's market, he might not be able to find something in, you know, the California that makes sense. But if you could hit it before it hits the MLS and you can get that seller finance, You know, some of you guys might not have enough capital to really put down 20% on a payment, you know, but utilizing a service like that. Now, I'm not endorsing any service, of course, but utilizing a service similar to those like Jen has can lead you to get to those deals a lot earlier before anyone else, can lead you to that seller finance deal, right? Can beat the wholesaler. If you can beat the wholesaler, you can win. You set the terms at that point, or you get the terms, because even a wholesaler has some type of spread, right? So you can eliminate that by paying a service like this to help you get to the end game. It's a very efficient way. If especially like in today's market, there is not a lot of deal flow right now. Like it is, and I'm sure, and Jen, you might be seeing this too in your realm, but it is dry out there, and every investor is
Oh
looking.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It really in every market. Yes, it's harder because at least with occupant sellers, they don't want to sell and then go into a higher interest rate. So we target a lot of vacant, a lot of absentee. I mean, you almost have to because occupant sellers is just not something we can market anymore and have it be good for our time. That's speaking for me personally, right? There's going to be someone out there who's like, well, now that no one else is marketing to the occupant sellers, I'm going to do it and then watch that person clean up. But for me right now, I'm staying away from occupant sellers for that reason.
And so when we look at like let's say for example, I know Triple H is on. If you're looking at like a guy like him, he's in the Virginia market. He might not have, you know, a good cash on cash return. Looking on an MLS,
Right.
looking at one of those resources, where if he could, you know, network with a company like yours, you may be able to get him that, you know, that deal that he may need, with maybe the right cash on cash return that he's looking for in that area.
And that's very important because with a good cash on cash return, then we're not having to worry about negative DSCR, right? And there were companies that were doing negative DSCR loans, but
They
they're
still
not
are.
anymore. Oh, are they? I
They
haven't
still
seen it.
are. You can get a DSCR with like 0.75, right? And I
My
tell my
goodness.
students,
Okay, I didn't know that, Ray.
yeah, I tell my students, I mean, at 0.75, it got to be a value add. You got to be adding value to even, I mean, you're losing from day one. So you got to have
Yes.
value add strategy. But we don't, I mean, I wouldn't even look at a deal really with
No.
0.5. It just doesn't make sense unless it's a vacant house or you got an ADU play or DADU play.
And if any of these words don't make sense in terms of DSCR cash on cash, a good resource that I learned from is George Antoine. George Antoine taught me a lot about the math of cap rates versus cash on cash versus DSCR and negative spread. And Ray, I don't know if that's stuff that you teach. So,
Yep.
okay,
So we
you
go
teach
through.
that? Okay, good.
We go through all of that. Somebody in Zach Miller asked a question. How are you approaching your offer on a cold call without knowing what repair costs are involved? So that's a good question.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that for me, Ray?
How are you approaching your offer on a cold call without knowing what repair costs are involved? And so go ahead, I'll let you answer, Jen. You're the
I think I understood is how do you end the call without knowing what the repair costs are?
yeah. I think
How are you coming up with making your offer?
Oh, okay. That's
on
a
the property.
totally separate skill set, right? So
Yep.
we're just with the cold call, let me be clear. We're capturing whether or not there's deal space and motivation. That's it. That's the main purpose of a cold call. We're trying to see, can we add value in terms of timeline or can we add value in terms of the condition of the property? That is the main thing. And that's it. And that's 90% of the deal right there is figuring out, you know, can we offer deal space later on? Then of course we either have someone go out in person, right? Or we get pictures out the rear end, pictures and videos. And also make sure that your videos, because I've only done virtual. Seth has been out in the field and I really appreciate and respect that about him. I've only done virtual, but I always usually have some sort of team member out in the field. And so if we're doing virtual only, they have to show us a slow video of the entire house that is not broken up or edited in any way, because you would be surprised what they can edit just with one room. They'll be like, half the house looks great, and then they'll be able to edit out the burned part or the bathroom or whatever it is. So you want one long continuous video, you want, 30 pictures. And if they're not motivated to do that, then they're not really motivated to sell, period. And then, of course, you have your inspector come out too, but you can make your initial offer and then you can go back and renegotiate. If you say, hey, instead of calling them out and saying, hey, you lied to me, I say, hey, Seth, My man, it looks like I know you have a lot going on, so I completely understand, but it looks like you forgot to mention that half your house was burned down. Of course, it's not that extreme, but I let them know that based on what they unfortunately chose to omit, we're gonna have to go back and renegotiate the contract. And if they don't want to do that, then that's okay, because I'm not good losing money. So if they don't want to renegotiate, then you know, oh well.
And I want you guys to remember too, with this tool, you should be getting properties at like almost a fraction of the value of what the ARV in that area is. Because Jen, I would guess you would be very familiar with the ARVs in the area and what the properties should be valued at.
Yes, sir. Especially, I mean, that's why we set the appointment for later. We don't we don't do that research before we call. Let me just be clear on that. It's only
Right.
once someone has shown motivation and has shown that they're willing to move forward that we even begin to do that type of market research. That's why I always set an appointment for later, whether it's for myself or someone else, because I need time to do proper comps on that property.
Yeah,
Good.
it's important. It's important. I think the distinction is this cold call that we're talking about here. This is that initial contact.
Yes.
The ultimate goal of a cold caller that I've ever hired or anyone that's worked with me, and Jen is the same way, is to meet what's called the 4 pillars
Yes.
of sale, right? It's motivation, timeline, condition, and price expectation.
That's right.
And honestly, motivation is number one. It's number two. It's number three. It's number four. It's even number five, really.
Yeah.
And
right.
then the other three kind of fit in as filler for that conversation. But you are never going to find somebody buy or sell their property at a fraction of an ARV, like what Ray's talking about, if they're not truly motivated. They're going to
Truly
be
motivated.
motivated one way or the other, whether it's motivated for the house reason or their personal financial reason, sometimes both, but it ain't never neither one of them. I can tell you that, right? They got to be
And
motivated.
people say to me, they're like, "But Jen, you have your license. Aren't you worried about, getting in trouble for, equity stripping or something like that?" I'm like, "Look, everybody knows what a realtor is. Nobody lives under a rock and doesn't know what a realtor is. So if they can sell with a realtor, they will. If they sell to me off market, it's because they absolutely have to. And because I do have my license, I make sure that I get in writing that they are choosing a cash offer, giving up X amount of equity, and they sign off on that, right?"
Yeah, I
So-
think the interesting thing about that motivation and selling with a cash offer. Some people, and I've seen this a lot. When you go to sell your house, there's renovations, especially if you're gonna list on the MLS. There's renovations that you have to do, which some people just don't want to deal with.
That's right.
You have those hoarder houses, and not necessarily all of them are hoarder houses, but there might be a ton of junk in them. And some people just like, look, I don't want to deal with this, right? They're just not
That's
ready
right.
to deal with it. Some people emotionally, they may have had a passing happen, or they lost their significant
Yes.
other, and emotionally and mentally they can't let go of that. So they'd rather just take the money and leave and just be done. And that might be something that is stopping them from actually going on the MLS or actually selling their property when they need to sell it. So I know we found properties like that in that shape, and working with wholesalers. Again, I tell my students I never cold called. I've never done any of this stuff. Seth is teaching me the ropes on it. I'm learning from one of the greats. Jen, I appreciate you hopping on as well. We got another question in chat from Avery. Avery, we'll answer you here in a few. Any other questions before we wrap up with Jen? Because I appreciate your time, Jen. Before we wrap up with Jen, any questions you guys want to add? Okay. Oh wait, Finn came in. How could you find their motivation? I feel like people don't want to talk about such things in the first call from a stranger.
That's true, and that's the $1 million question right there. So when they're telling you about the property, that's whenever you have an opportunity. So if they say they haven't sold they haven't done anything but the roof in the last 10 years, first off, there's room, and then also there's probably a reason. So it's not what they say, it's what they don't say. So this is getting a little bit esoteric, but in the universe, right, there's all the space between the planets. You have to be able to read the space between the planets to be able to know what's really going on. So if someone hasn't done anything to their house in the last 10 years, either they don't have the money, they're really busy, they're content. So I say, wow, it sounds like your property is in great shape. Why would you even consider an offer with a house that seems like it's really working well for you? If you hadn't done any work to it, it must be in great shape. What would make you want to sell? And if they say, well, you called me, what's your offer? I'd love to get you an offer. I just want to make sure that we can get you the type of terms that you're looking for, because it's not just price, it's also timing. So if you're happy there, this may not be something you'd want to sell for another, 1 to 2 years. Do you by chance? So what I do is I make assumptive statements. I'll say, is your oldest son graduating? Is your oldest kid graduating? They'll say, no, I don't have any kids. I just need to sell so that I can put my mom in a nursing home. So by making kind, general assumptive statements, like there'll be a guy who's obviously quite elderly, and use your own personality, but also always be professional, right? But if I can tell they're kind of a jokester and he's in his 80s and he says he wants to sell, I'm like, why is that, man? You ready to get out on the boats with some ladies, or what are you planning on doing with that? And they think that's hilarious, right? So you can kind of read their personality and make an assumptive statement. If it's a nice younger lady, I'll say, hey, are you ready to upsize? Is that what you're doing? Or are you thinking about maybe downsizing? So see, I give them two choices and I make it a very human nature is correcting people whenever they make an assumptive statement. And so I might say, hey, Seth, you wouldn't know how much you'd want for the property, would you?
Right.
But if I said, hey, Seth, how much do you want for the property? They're going to say, well, you told me first. What's your number? You tell me. But again, making that assumptive statement that then gives them an out at the end, you wouldn't know how much you'd want for the property, would you, Seth? Right? So see, it's that space between the variables that you're getting on those more neutral questions that gives you room to make those assumptive statements that they then feel compelled to push back on. So there is a lot of psychology to it, but it should be decently intuitive stuff, I'm hoping. Just think about if you were talking to your grandma or your sister or your own kid or your aunt or your uncle. Just be conversational like you would with any normal person while being polite and respecting their time and boundaries.
Yeah, I
Probably
think.
that's
Go ahead.
probably one of the most important things, and it's honestly probably what people struggle with a lot, and why people hesitate to make cold calls because of the fear of rejection and stuff like that. Like the most important part is to set yourself apart by being yourself. Whoever yourself happens to be, being yourself and being genuine will break down barriers. And then it's all about active listening, right? And really truly listening to what's going on, finding those holes, right? And they'll tell you where that motivation's coming from, or where you need to ask another open-ended question or ask an assumptive question. One of the two. Never just yes or no, right? Either
Yeah, because that's
assume
where
and
they
let
shut
them
down.
correct it. Right. If you're doing something assumptive for them to correct you, that's great, right? But outside of that, open-ended yes or no's are honestly, they're conversation killers.
I like that.
Yeah, they
So
are.
I'll tell you guys one of the biggest things. One, and to my students too, you never say your price. You never tell them your price.
I agree with that.
People ask
I
me,
agree with that.
so XYZ for, hey, just make me an offer. I'll consider it. I just never tell them my price because I don't know what their pockets are like. They might have $1 million view for my property. They might have comped it wrong. I'll take it. So you never sell your price. And then another thing, like I mentioned, some of the students don't want to wholesale, they don't want to cold call, some have an interest in it. And I appreciate your time, Jen. But I want to also apply this and the jewels that you guys are dropping. These could be had in everyday conversations, not just with dealing with, you can go to the car lot and use these same tactics, right? You could be, talking with somebody, a direct seller, right? And using some of these same tactics when you're talking to them. Maybe you're trying to convince them to do seller financing, right? Or maybe you're trying to convince them to lower the price, or, give you a kickback or something. Using these same tactics and utilizing these same strategies are very, very helpful throughout I think all of real estate, and more all through life, and that's one thing that we value here highly. We talk high level real estate stuff, but we're talking about principles and applying these that you can use in everyday life too. So I really appreciate it, Jennifer. I thank you for your time. I'm sure everybody here thanks you for
Thank
your
you.
time as well. Jen, if we could, I would love to get you back on one of our Wednesday calls that we'll be doing just for the students. Maybe we can do another high level conversation as well, if you're willing.
Absolutely. And then we can get into anything you want to get into. If you want to do lead management and moving the sellers down the decision-making timeline, that's a whole separate skill set. I think that's the most important role in the entire company in terms of closability. And then of course, closing is easy if you've had someone do their job in the lead management role. I mean, how do you feel about it, Seth, in terms of, if you have a great lead manager, how much easier is it to close?
It's huge. And it's huge that there's synergy from that first call all the way throughout the process too, right? Like our core focus for our business is we provide solutions to every customer that we serve, right? I actually have my cold callers on the very first call use words like solutions and clients.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily to say what my purpose is, but they're going to say solutions and clients. My lead manager is going to call them. He's going to say, our purpose is to provide solutions to every client we serve. And when I go into close, look, I came up with a solution. I hope it solves your problem, right? I just want to make you a client. So I'm going to give you as many solutions as possible. You tell me which one's the best. That communication all the way throughout the process with synergy is what's probably the most important part of everything.
Well said, Seth. Very well said.
Awesome, guys. I appreciate it. Jennifer, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
We're gonna answer some questions in the chat real quick. Avery asks, Avery, are you there still? I don't know if he's still here.
Yep, he's here.
Avery, if you could turn your camera on, I want to see. Avery graduated from WVU in 2015, went back home to Richmond, Virginia. Okay, another Virginia person in 2015. House market was good, built in 2019 at 2.1. Now I've added to the family and looking at upsizing. How does that affect my ability to invest once in a bigger house? Avery, I can tell you what I would do is I would rent that first damn house out. I'm not selling that at 2.1. There ain't no way. You're never gonna see that rate again, bro. I don't think in our lifetime we gonna have to go to World War IV, 5, and 6 to see that rate again. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold on to that property. If it were me, I would hold on to that property, turn it into a rental. Most banks, they'll work with you, especially if they know it's gonna be an investment property, and they'll add it to your income to help you qualify for your next loan. So yeah, there's no way and no way I'm giving that 2.1 up. You got a better interest rate on your house than I have. There's no way.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. That note is more valuable than the house, probably.
Yeah.
It's basically 0% interest.
Yeah, that's free money, bro. Clarissa just added. That's exactly what she did. Yeah, man. I mean, and Avery, you're not one of the students with us, but I know we do like figure out what the rent is in your area and what you could rent that for, bro. And figure out what your mortgage is, and that's your spread. You probably got an escrow as a house. It's your house. You got a spread. So, I mean, if your mortgage is 800 or 1500, you can probably rent it out for anywhere from 15 to 23, depending on your area. That's an extra $700-800 a month to help you qualify for your next loan. So there's no way, man, I would get rid of that. Brandon, you want to key in? I don't know if Brandon's still.
Hey, I'm here. I had
Yeah.
I had a question for you, Ray.
Yeah, go ahead.
Both of you, both Seth and Ray. So I in Baltimore we're like held responsible for the water, and I had added washers and dryers in both of the units. But I'm as a landlord, I'm responsible for the water. So I'm like next year, when the lease is up, I was thinking about taking the washers and dryers out of there, and then my property manager, she was going to maybe put in a lease that we offer like a laundry service, and that way like they'll pay us to wash the laundry, and which would like like for that problem it would service that problem. Just your thoughts on that. Have you ever like offered that laundry service where you didn't have washers and dryers? How did that work out?
All right. So in Pennsylvania or Pittsburgh specifically, I know you have to keep the water in the landlord's name. Water and sewer stay in the landlord's name throughout. So you have to factor in one, how respectful is this tenant going to be of that utility, right? And then it could be a fair range of like, hey, if the water bill falls in between, typically it ranges from $50 to $100. If it falls in this, then we're good. If it ranges over there, it's on a tenant. Tenant, you pay X, Y, Z. We've seen that done. Now you got to check with your local laws to figure that out. Number two would be, hey, look, we don't supply washers and dryers. If you already got the washer dryer there, cool. But we don't supply washers and dryers. But hey, look, we can rent you one, right? And we'll rent you the washer and dryer set for $20 a month, $30 a month, and that'll help you offset some of that water usage. You're not really using a ton of water if you have, especially one of these high efficient energy washing machines as well. You wouldn't be using a ton of water. My bigger concerns are like my highest bills come from toilet usage, or the toilet's messed up and they're letting it run. And even then, they have like water sensors. And this is something pretty cool, guys, you might want to look at. They make water sensing devices that can tell you like, hey, your water usage is high before the water company even gets it. You can monitor it. It'll send you alerts. It'll let you know if there's leaks. So that might be a good investment, especially if it's just a couple units. I think they run like $99 for one of these sensors or something. And it'll be a good investment. My concern would be whether, that could cost you a tenant is not having that washer and dryer there, right? Are you leaving something that a tenant may actually want, depending on what class your property? If I'm renting a B class or A class property, my tenant is expecting to have a washer dryer there. And for me to say, hey, I'm gonna rent you a washer and dryer, they're like, no, that makes no sense. So I would consider all those factors. Think about the class of the property. You don't want to lose a tenant or leave a tenant on the line just because of a washer that might run $5 to $10 a month. So those are all things that I would consider if I were you. Seth, anything you want to add on that?
What's the name of that the product that the item that you had
I'd
suggested?
have to get it. Anybody in the chat, if you guys know, if you want to drop it in the chat, that might be. Nate said it's Moen Flow Water Monitor. I think that is it. And it doesn't have to be Moen either. I think Moen's just a brand. They make you can probably get a different brand on Amazon, but I know that.
I would look at, if it's long term and stuff like that, especially if it's multiple units, I would look at doing where it's a pay per use laundry, whether it's a coin op or an app paid type thing. If the laundry is going to be running your bill up, that you get paid every time that they use it. I don't know if I would get into the laundry service. I think that you're in the real estate business, you're in the landlording business, and you kind of want to stay there. You're not going to be as good as the laundromat down the street. So, and it's just another problem. I probably wouldn't get into I wouldn't personally get into the laundry.
Ain't no way in hell I'm touching that, bro. It might be like, yeah, I'm gonna make some money, and then you get a lawsuit because you messed up this tenant's $5,000 Gucci jacket, and this. I wouldn't even get into it. Nicole mentioned for the class I look and buy, and I provide washing and dryers with all the units, central air as well. Very important, right? And it's expected by my tenants and sets it apart. Yeah. And so, like, I'll be honest with, like, some of the properties I have, like, they might be like, I have some D's in my portfolio, and I have some C's, which are like, they're like black eyes on me. But on those, I might not have central air. I might have just, heating system, but not central air, because it's just, but in some of my C's and all my B's, we have central air for, so A's is like a B and an A, you got to have central air. I feel like a B and an A, depending on where you at, you got to have, especially if you're trying to get B rents too, a washer and dryer, that's just money that you just got to plan to put aside and just run it. If you have a calculator, I don't know if you have mine, but just run it through your expenses, bro. Just run that water bill through your expenses and make sure it steals cash flows. Run it for the worst case scenario. If your water bill is $100 a month, run it for $200 for that what if, right? And then you can save for that what if, and it's still cash flow and it's not going to hurt you. Couple other things. Quintel mentioned coaching. Quintel, you can just hop on the website, or just send me a DM on Instagram. Any advice on finding deals in Richmond, Virginia? You're talking to Seth himself, so Seth can help you with the deal flow as well. Nicole mentioned more in B areas. Yeah, B's in it. I don't have it like I tell you guys. I don't invest in A areas, particularly because you're not going to cash flow them. That's where I live. I live in an A area. I can't. It'd be dumb for me to rent my damn house, honestly. But most rentals here do not have central air. Yeah, that's huge. So you already set yourself apart, Nicole, by having that as an option. And when we're looking, I want you guys to know, like, the year 2024 is going to be probably one of the hardest times to find tenants. You're going to have some really picky tenants, right? Because they just came out of the good life. There's new builds happening. And 2025, when we've talked about this, there's not going to be any more new builds, right? There's going to be some, but actually finding that house in 2025 is going to be a lot harder, right? And there's going to be a lot more competition. So right now, tenants, I know even in my market, you guys know about big multifamily. Tenants are super picky. Oh, I want a yard. I want this. I want that. And in 2 years, in a year, they'll be like, oh, I'll just take whatever because I need housing right now, right? And so you want to be in a market where you have that that drive and that, you know, is there for people to want to rent or have the necessity to rent. I'll tell you, I'll give you guys a story today, actually. I got a text from someone, and I'm pretty sure it's a legal immigrant. I just gotta put this out there, right? And they were just like, hey, and I'm not political or anything, but they were just like, hey, I'm Mr. Ray, I'm looking for a 1 bedroom. And I was like, look, I got a 2 bedroom. If you want, you know, you can get a roommate, put them in there. And they're like, no, Mr. Ray, I'll just wait for a 1 bedroom. And I'm like, there is just not the demand isn't there right now in a lot of areas. Certain areas you guys may be investing in heavy demand, but I know specifically in my market, especially for multifamily, the demand isn't as much versus a single family house, right?
Yep.
And I think we'll see that for this year. 2025, skyrocket. It's just going to be, hey, I just need a place to live. I guarantee it.
That's an important point. Um, you know, in this market with the 1 bedrooms and stuff like that. Whereas, you know, if you get in other markets, it may not be the same. Same thing with the AC, right? Like even here in Morgantown, but like in Michigan, versus where Jennifer's at in Texas, where even Richmond, right, where people are talking about where I came from, like you had AC, period. Like AC is a thing, right? Here, maybe not. Michigan, probably not, right? It depends on what part of the country you're in, on what amenities you are, and so it's the same thing when you're pulling comps and stuff like that. Look at your competition. What does your competition have in that A class area, C class area, wherever it is, and be that or better, and you're
Yeah.
going to be successful. You know.
And I think that's the thing too. It's just what your competition has, what the units look like. Are yours better? You know, when you want to attract that tenant, you'll get more deal flow if you have more modern paint. I mean, stuff just like the paint or the flooring goes so far, you know.
It sets yourself apart,
Yeah,
right? It's same thing in the cold calling that we talked about before, being yourself, setting yourself apart from everybody else that's calling them. Same thing when you're marketing a property for rent and stuff like that, or even for sale. How can you set that apart from all your competition? That's what's going to get you success.
yeah. Guys, we hope we answered all the questions tonight that you guys had. I appreciate it. Jen, thank you again for your time. We'd love to get you back on our Wednesday call. Wednesday calls are starting next week, Seth.
Yes,
We
that's the
going live
plan.
next week, 12 o'clock Eastern time, okay? 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're going to be doing at your lunch
Yeah.
break, depending on where you're at. To the people on the West Coast, we did 12 p.m. because I know y'all not going to wake up at no 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So we're doing 12 o'clock Eastern Time, and it's going to be weekly. The people who are here right now, you guys are in, you're booked in for free. So I'd love to see you guys there. To the students, you guys are good for there as well. And to the students, we're adding, Seth and I are working on a wholesale course, right? Seth, we're going to give that to the students that are already in the program for free, right? We're good with
100%.
that. Yeah, we're going to give it to the students for free. Some of you don't want to wholesale. We're just going to give it to you. I want you to listen to it. It is tons of value. I think we got about like 4, 5, 6 hours, Seth, worth of like content to shoot. Plenty of PDFs. We're dropping that here in the next few weeks as well. I look forward to seeing everybody else later this week. DM me if you guys need anything. Message me, text me. I hope to see everybody. All right. Have a good one.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Everybody have a good one. And if you, Quintel and Avery, you guys were asking about Richmond. I'm not there now, but I know a lot of people. Actually, Jennifer knows a lot of people in Richmond too. She's kind of a celebrity in that town.
It's a great town, great people.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I know it very, very well. I still invest in Richmond, Virginia. I've got partners there now, currently. So
Good.
reach out. My contact information's there on the screen.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much,
Thank
guys.
you.
Great to meet you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, for your time and all your knowledge. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Seth. Great to see you as always.
Yep, you too.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
All right, Ryan.